Deborah. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
I was really mean, I was fierce, you know, yeah. So I scared a lot of people, so they used to call me a crocodile.
And the worst thing Obama the Mamba's ever done?
Robbery.
Robbery? Armed robbery?
Yeah.
He refuses to say more, partly because he doesn't share his half-brother's polished rhetorical skills, but also because he's never been brought to justice.
Do you ever feel like saying sorry to some of your victims?
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay.
Like I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
It's really hysterical for the former attorney general of that state to talk about doing something illegal, laughing about it, giggling about it, and trying to get some traction for it. Among the people that were upset by it, her dad, Donald Harris, from Jamaica, an economics professor at Stanford University, says this: "My dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking, joy-seeking, and in pursuit of identity politics." Man.
Today's going to the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Welcome to the 100th.
And two, I appointed Johnson to the Academy. I just want you to know that. Let's clap for that, you stupid bastard. Man, you are a dull bunch. Must be slow here, man.
Is high.
This should not stop you from going about your life, should not stop you from going to Chinatown and going out to eat. I'm going to do that today myself.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are. We're, again, careful, safe, and come join us.
There is no concern at this time for coronavirus in our region.
The Department of Sanitation is ready for Mardi Gras 2020.
The facts are reassuring.
We want New Yorkers to go about their daily lives.
But there's really no need to panic and to avoid activities that we always do as New Yorkers. We are a hardy people.
Americans do not need to panic. What I would suggest, however, is that Americans take this as a wake-up call for seasonal flu.
There's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu.
So we're telling New Yorkers, go about your lives, take the subway, go out, enjoy life, and certainly not to miss the parade next Sunday. I'm going to be there.
If you had to, would you close down the borders?
No.
We need to be honest about the American people, with the American people, about the fact that we can't keep people coming here from China.
And transmission is not that easy. I think there's been a misperception that coronavirus hangs in the air waiting to catch you. No, it takes direct person-to-person contact.
We also know that if it were likely to be transmitted casually, we would be seeing a lot more cases.
Right, because this is New York and you're in elevators and trains with everybody all the time.
Today was a historic moment in our history. He was inaugurated as President of the United States. He was surrounded by his family. We take a number of precautions, but I think we have bigger issues to worry about at this moment in time. Go ahead, Anita.
You mentioned...
Michigan? I think there's a lot of criticism coming from outside the campaign from other Democrats who are worried that Biden doesn't, that the optics are bad, that Biden doesn't look as vigorous as the president when he's following the rules and the president is not. The Biden campaign would tell you the whole argument on the virus, to the extent the virus is a defining feature of the campaign, their whole argument is
I witnessed the military ballots being duplicated. I just thought it was strange that only Biden's name was selected, no down ballot. And I watched multiples, I don't know how many I watched, and not one of them was for Trump. I thought that was really strange, especially being military.
First of all, for the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and then for a number of other states. And these lawsuits will be brought starting on Monday. But the first time it was discovered was here in Pennsylvania just a couple of days ago. The people you see behind me are just a few of about, I'd say, 50 to 60 poll watchers who will all testify that they were uniformly, that they were uniformly deprived of their right to inspect any single part of the mail-in ballots. As you know, from the very beginning, the mail-in ballots were a source of some degree of skepticism, if not a lot of skepticism, as being innately prone to fraud. The New York Times had written that 10 years ago under other circumstances, but of course changed their mind once it was a situation involving President Trump. As a friend of mine says, I don't believe in conspiracies, but I also don't believe in coincidences. Kind of funny that all Republicans were rejected here, and all Republicans were rejected in Pittsburgh, and it amounts to about, just about the 700,000 votes that President Trump was ahead by 2 days ago that disappeared. And we have no way of knowing, because we were deprived of the right to inspect, if a single one of those ballots is legitimate.
Let's move to Nevada, where hundreds of thousands of ballots have been cast by people that were out of state, at non-existent addresses, or dead. Next is the Georgia case of the very unequal double standard for signature verification for in-person ballots versus mail-in ballots, and the Pennsylvania case, which is in front of the Supreme Court as an issue of law. This based on the state's very explicit limits on mail-in voting. And if that isn't enough to meet the threshold of doubt, add to it concerns of software glitches, flipped votes, suspicions in the chain of custody, the double counting, the backdating, the mysterious case of thousands of mail-in ballots without creases or folds. Oh, and the sudden appearance of pristine completed ballots stuffed in suitcases. Evidence of irregularities and manipulations is in our face, yet Democrats
want to actually have an impact. Now, the second piece you're talking about, which is what people usually mean by election reform, how are you going to keep it from us being able to be in a position where you can manipulate the machines, manipulate the records? The one way to do that is, I think we should pass a federal law mandating that the same machines with paper trails be mandatory for every federal election. That will be a multi-billion-dollar bill for the states, because the states will have to make a choice then. They will have to make a choice whether or not they have two machines. We can't mandate, as you know, state elections. We can't tell the state of Delaware or Ohio or Texas what machines and what method they use to vote in their state elections, but we can do it federally. So in a nutshell, I think we should be mandating that we have a paper ballot with a standardized machine, standardized requirements.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Departments for many decades, and it is not working. Instead, they believe that the solution is to reduce the number of interactions that civilians have with the police. We can reduce the responsibilities assigned to the police and redirect some of the funding for police.
Le monde, un spectacle accablant. Bien sûr, les images choquantes du Capitole. Cette profanation du temple de la démocratie américaine est grave, et les morts parmi les policiers comme parmi les manifestants sont autant de drames. Violer l'institution symbolique que représentent les bâtiments du Congrès américain est inexcusable, mais cette manifestation houleuse n'était en rien un coup d'État. Joe Biden a regretté l'agression sans précédent de la démocratie américaine. Il n'avait rien dit lorsque quelques mois plus tôt, les mêmes bâtiments étaient envahis par l'extrême gauche radicale et le mouvement Black Lives Matter. L'autre spectacle accablant, et qui doit lui nous inquiéter, c'est l'exclusion par la quasi-totalité des réseaux sociaux d'un président démocratiquement élu et encore en exercice, une agression historique sans précédent Contre ce principe démocratique essentiel, le respect de la liberté d'expression. Les réseaux sociaux ont débranché Donald Trump, s'arrogeant le droit exorbitant de créer de nouvelles règles. Ils estiment que les conditions d'utilisation de leurs services priment sur la Constitution des États souverains. Joe Biden affiche sa volonté de remettre en place un leadership mondial américain, avec des accents bellicistes. Cela ne peut que nous inquiéter. Après le mandat de Donald Trump marqué par des années sans aventure militaire, sans doute son accomplissement le plus marquant, après un demi-siècle d'intervention militaire américaine au gré des présidents qui se sont succédés. Quand Joe Biden affirme, et je cite, « Nous devons prouver au monde que les États-Unis sont prêts à diriger de nouveau, non seulement avec l'exemple de notre puissance, mais aussi avec la puissance de notre exemple », c'est arrogant. Ce n'est pas l'Amérique qu'on aime. Au-delà de l'homme et de son style, la défaite électorale de Donald Trump ne remet en rien en cause l'agenda politique qu'il a développé aux États-Unis et qui est partout sur la planète est porté par les peuples. Régulation de l'économie mondialisée, remise en cause du rôle de gendarme du monde des États-Unis, rejet du politiquement correct, écoute des populations face aux inégalités grandissantes. Ces thèmes sont ceux que porte le Rassemblement national en France, la Lega en Italie, l'AfD en Allemagne, l'ensemble de nos alliés en Europe. Et c'est ce profond respect pour les peuples qui nous portera au pouvoir, pour protéger en Europe des pratiques démocratiques affaiblies et des libertés publiques gravement entravées au nom d'une sécurité sanitaire.
You run the risk of deciding whether or not you're going to prostitute yourself to give the answer you know they want to hear in order to get funded to run for that office. See, I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself in the manner in which I talk about it. But what happened was they said, come back when you're 40, son.
Yes. Thank you, Kayleigh. Okay, you don't want to engage. Where do you draw the line here? I'm told that no longer can you find on HBO Gone with the Wind because somehow that is now offensive. Where do you draw the line? Should George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison be erased from history? What about FDR and because of internment camps? Should he be erased from history, or Lyndon Johnson, who has a history of documented racist statements? And finally, what about people that are alleged by the media to be segregationists? NBC tells us Joe Biden didn't just compromise with segregationists, he fought for their causes in schools, experts say. CNN tells us letters from Joe Biden reveal how he sought support of segregationists in the fight against busing. Washington Post tells us that Biden's tough talk on 1970 schools desegregation plans could get him new scrutiny, and there are several more where that came from. So I'll leave you with the question, should we then rename the Biden Welcome Center?